Okay, so I just thought I would show you quickly what I'm working on here with this Vangoa. So again, the issues that I'm working on are going to be a rattling washer underneath here. I'm going to be dealing with sharp fret ends, and to be honest, I've actually already did that. So if you listen, there's nothing there anymore. And this is the budget bargain way of dealing with this, and I'll talk about that in a second. Then I'm going to treat this fretboard, and I've decided I'm just going to use my lemon oil to do so. And then there might be one other thing that I'll take a look at. Now, with the bargain basement way of dealing with fret ends, there are a couple ways to do it. You can buy a special fret end tool, but if you're trying to do it just on inexpensive ukuleles and you want to get it done quick, the real answer is a sanding sponge that's usually in the drywall area, sort of a medium grit. And all you have to do is go at a 45-degree angle and just get the edge of your ukulele, like that. And what I do is I do tape the body and over the top so I don't scratch that. But I'm not really worried about the fretboard because the fretboard is made out of a hardwood, and when it gets treated, it's going to look just fine. There might be exceptions to that rule, so again, would I do that? Well, first of all, you wouldn't have to do that with like a $1,000 Koaloha because those are edge bound and the edges will never pop out. And if they do, contact the company. But in this case, I needed to do that. So, and if you notice, I'm using my Music Nomad mat and my Music Nomad neck holder. I remembered that I had it, so I wanted to get it out and to work with that way. So I've got that going on. And then, so I've already done that. And if you listen, we're already smooth here, so it's not going to be the sharp fret ends anymore. Although it seems like I could do a little more work up here, and I will need to do that in just a second. So I'm going to do that, and I will cut back to the next thing. Okay, now as for this loose end, if you have the Music Nomad Octopus, what you can do is when you change strings, you can actually just put this down and tighten that. Otherwise, most of these are going to be a 10mm wrench. And all you need to do is get in here, and this is hard to do one-handed, but tighten this. And you just tighten it a little bit. And I'm going to do that and make sure that this is nice and snug, and I'll be back in a second. So this one is now nice and snug. I'm going to also just tighten these other ones because you can see that there's movement on some of these other washers. Again, this is something that just should have been done in the factory. A couple more cranks. It's not going to hurt anything. And I'll get done with that, and I'll go to the next step of the process. All right, all of them are tightened. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is I'm able to use this wrench here because of those washers, so I'm not touching wood. If you had an ukulele where that nut was just on the wood, you might have some more concerns. And that's where something like this Music Nomad here is really good because that's a softer plastic that's going to do less damage than a metal tool. So that's one of the really cool parts about this whole Music Nomad thing. So the final thing that I'm going to do right now, actually I'm going to show you one other thing that I might want to look at. Do you see that there's this one fret here with kind of some black mark on it? What I'm going to do is put a piece of tape underneath here, and I'm going to see if I can sand that down a little bit to get rid of that little black mark right there too. So that's what I'm about to do. Well, that helped a little bit. It's a little bit cleaner than it was. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the strings off of here, and I'm going to address the fretboard with lemon oil. So in this case, I'm using the Dunlop 65. That's made for fretboards. There's been some discussion of whether you should use F1 or whether you should use F1 oil or Dunlop or Stumac lemon oil. And from my own testing, they all work about the same, although the companies will make different claims. Ultimately, if you're using one of those, there's not going to be any problem because they're made for it. So I'm going to apply that, and what's cool about this is that it has an applicator right on it, and when you squeeze down, you put some oil on there, and look at the color change immediately there. You can see how dry that fretboard was. So this will also help with that, and I'm going to go do that, and actually on the sides of the fretboard as well. I'm not going to do the bridge for now. That can stay in its sort of dryish condition, but this is really, really dry. So I'm going to do that now too. Okay, now if you take a look, it's all glistening. I'm going to let that soak in there for a little while, and then I'm going to dry it off with a paper towel, and then I'll decide on whether it's looking good or not. But man, does that look nicer even there with that wood, whatever that is. Again, I'm not sure that's rosewood like they said it was, which is okay. It doesn't have to be rosewood, but man, does that look nicer with that grain in it, even with that oil in there. So that's a winning point. Now, the whole point of what I'm showing you here is that there's a really good chance that you buy an ukulele online or you buy one from your local dealer, not joking about that, where the frets ends are sharp, where you might have a rattle in something as easy, if you can find it, as one of those washers. You might have a fretboard that's really dry and just needs some attention. This thing is a 2-pack for less than $5. This thing is not that expensive, certainly under $10 for a bottle that lasts forever. You know, buy some masking tape. That's actually probably more expensive than the other things here. And the mat is just a good investment. I'm kind of glad that I remembered I have it. A 10mm wrench you should have. These things, these octopus tools, which are great. And then the other thing that I was going to fix was just tightening this strap pin right here. So it just is a couple turns with the Phillips head screw. So that'll just take a moment to go. So that's what I'm doing to get this ready to be able to play for a week. It's not about adjusting the nut yet. It's not about adjusting the saddle yet or even measuring those. It's just having the instrument ready to go so I can play it minimally over the next couple of weeks. That buzz up there would have driven me crazy. The sharp fret ends would have been driving me crazy. So I can definitely in a review say that I had to fix those things. But here's the catch again. You might have to fix those too. So this isn't, you know, super hard. This isn't being a luthier yet. It's just really basic care that you can do in a couple minutes. And if you don't want to risk ruining your fretboard at all, what you can do is you can put masking tape around the entire thing and then sand through until you get to the metal. You won't even get to the wood. You'll just be dealing with the metal edges too. But again, I'm not worried about it on such an inexpensive ukulele. Now you might say $60 for an ukulele is a lot, but it's really not. I mean, seriously, almost no other instrument, granted you can get into recorder, but no other instrument that in this kind of context can you get into for so little with such high quality. And the rest of this instrument looks like it's gonna be really quite enjoyable and quite good. So once I have that ready to go, I'm good. Some people be worried about the fact that I put oil on over the strings. Well, I'll wipe off the strings afterwards. And then also, it's worth it to mention that our fingers have oil on them when we're playing them. So it's probably good to learn how to wipe off your strings. This isn't gonna hurt those strings at all. And we'll just go with it. So, little quick demo of what I do to get this ukulele ready. Again, I'd prefer it if you didn't have to do that, but if you do, it's not an expensive fix, and these are tools that you probably should have if you're an ukulele player anyway. So, kind of leave it at that. So, thanks for watching. We'll have more content for you soon in the future.